is a big development that is taking place as we speak, which has a background over the last 55 years. A senior Chinese diplomat, a man who has served as the national security advisor to none other than the chief of the Chinese People's Republic, Xi Jingping, the man on the right side of your screens, who was intensely involved in the border negotiations with India and who was credited in China for resetting the Soviet Union and Chinese ties, has come out and said that if China were to agree to India's demand to vacate a large part of Aksai China, in turn, they would expect India to hand over a certain tract of Arunachal Pradesh, including Tawang. Now, India's stand on this has been clear for generations, that Arunachal Pradesh is very much, will be and shall remain an integral part of India. Simultaneously, as this is happening, the Chinese Foreign Office has now come out and warned India against the possible visit of the Dalai Lama, the man on the left side of your screens, to the ancient Buddhist monastery in Tawang. For two countries who have had a border dispute which has been going on for decades, for two countries that are now at least in the global top 4 power tier, what happens next and how does this play out? That is the question we are raising tonight. Listen in to what's actually happened on the ground. Explain us the terms of what this deal that is being offered is actually about.
Well, thanks indeed at this point. Let's understand what really is the proposal coming in from China. This is how things stand. There are two parts which are integral territories of India which are currently laid claim onto China through various means. There's Aksai China, which is the part, which is also another form of Chinese occupied Kashmir, which is demarcated from India by the line of actual control. There's also Arunachal Pradesh, the entire state being disputed, especially the region of Tawang. Now, what the senior Chinese diplomat actually suggests is that China is ready to cede some parts of Aksai China, not all, remember, because for them their key road links to the Tibetan autonomous region go through Aksai China, and they're ready to let go of some of it as long as India is ready to cede its position on Arunachal. This is, of course, the position which has been taken by this senior Chinese diplomat, who is an advisor nonetheless to the Chinese premier himself. Now, remember, Arunachal is being claimed by China as part of Greater Tibet. Is it realistic? Because this essentially means the Dalai Lama, the Tibetan president in exile, will be forbidden from visiting Tawang if it comes as part of China. On the other hand, China says that it will withdraw by 100 kilometers from Aksai China in response to India's move. Now, is that realistic? Is, of course, again, a very big question.
Let's open this up. Joining us on the broadcast tonight on the News Lens, R.S. Kala is the former MEA secretary with me. Jayadev Ranade joining us as well. I have N.R. Tanjan joining us via Skype from Beijing. Good evening, gentlemen, and thank you for taking out this time to have a serious debate on this topic, because it begets something very crucial. On fundamental terms, this is an offer that has been put out in a book and subsequent newspaper interviews by a Chinese former envoy who one would presume would be in the thick of things and would be aware of what was being discussed with India. India has never at any point of time suggested that it is willing to even consider any of these offers. R.S. Kala, has the time come to do a deal? Can we do one? Mr. Kala, if you can hear me, sir. Ambassador. Well, I'm guessing not. Let me put that question to Jayadev Ranade then. Mr. Ranade, is it possible? Should we be thinking down these lines, or should we reject it up front?
Not at all. Firstly, this is nothing new. Ever since they raised their demand specifically on Tawang in September 2005, they have continued to push it, and in different forms. You recall, earlier Tug Shopping had talked about a package deal, something in the east for something in the west. And at that time, they had said India will have to make some major concessions in the east. Now, Tawang obviously is very much a city in our province. It's an integral part of India. As far as we are concerned, it's settled, and there's no question of giving up Tawang. Also, the offer mentioned by Dai Binguo of withdrawing a distance in Aksai China really makes no sense. But just to mention, Dai Binguo has written about this earlier. He has mentioned it earlier in his discussions here. And he was a senior functionary. He was a very important party person. He headed the Chinese Communist Party's International Liaison Department before becoming a vice foreign minister and then a state councillor. He was also China's special envoy to 9 countries, including, I'm a special representative, including handling the border talks here. So he certainly knows what he's talking about. He's got the baggage. But I think this is just one more effort being made by China as it becomes stronger to push the envelope.
Okay, just stay with me. Mr. Ranade, let me invite Ainar Tanjan into this conversation. Mr. Tanjan, in the past 24 hours, China has once again objected to the fact that India may host, and at this point of time may host, the Dalai Lama in the ancient Buddhist monastery in Tawang, which is the root cause of the discussion on the border that we are having tonight. How much of an issue does this remain, sir, for the party in Beijing?
Well, obviously in Beijing, they look on this very dimly. Their position is quite clear on this. Going back to my colleague, I would posit to him that this is nothing new that China's doing. I don't think that it's necessarily a hostile act being pushed by a big bully neighbor. I think it's pretty much the status quo. If you go back to the time of Zhou Enlai, it's pretty much the same thing. The question is, what does India want? It's never been put on the line saying that we want everything after a disastrous and slightly humiliating adventure in 1962 is not realistic. So I would love to hear from him or anybody exactly what India would propose as a settlement of this issue. Or is the case that India wants this to go on?
Okay, we've done it before. Ambassador Kala with us now. Ambassador Kala, we've done it before, sir. An agreement was made way back in 2005, 2006 that led to the opening of the Nathula Pass, that China would give up its claim tacitly on Sikkim in return for India accepting that the Tibetan autonomous region was an inalienable part of China. It's done before, it opened a border point. Why can't it be done again, sir, in practical terms?
Please understand, you have to be very careful of the terms which you use. In 2005, when Premier...
All right. Unfortunately, for some reason, we can't get that connection with Ambassador Kala sorted out. We'll hopefully will soon. Let me put that question right back to Jaydev Ranade. Jaydev Ranade, how is this different than what was done earlier with Sikkim and the Tibetan autonomous region, which basically reflected the ground realities as they existed?
Well, frankly, we had no claims on Tibet. Sikkim was very much a part of India. It was a negotiation, and they wanted us to, make a statement to the effect that Tibet is a part of China, which we did. And then they agreed that they would accept Sikkim as a part of India, which did happen. In the case of Arunachal, it's quite different. China has had a claim on Arunachal. In September 2005, they raised a specific claim on Tawang. We at no time have wavered on our position that Arunachal is a part of India. So I don't see any scope for negotiation. And you certainly can't, bifurcate a state or slice up a state to give a portion to China in return for what? And I heard the comments of the other panelist from, I think it was Beijing. There are a number of factual errors in what he said. But let me tell him that the points of view are different, obviously, depending on where you are. And in India, we do not consider 1962 as an act of military misadventure by India. And I think even the Chinese documents mention it very clearly, that it was the Chinese troops who moved in, and Mao Zedong and Kang Piao, etc., actually worked on the plans.
Okay, so let's look on the larger picture. I don't want to get into that conversation because we've been having it in both countries for well, the better part of 50 years. Einar Tanjin, in the greater game of things, in the greater political realm of geopolitics, where does this now fit in? Because is it a coincidence that all of this is being brought to the fore once again? Because every time something big in the world is happening, in this case, the Trump era being inaugurated, and the fact that the foreign secretary just come from a 4-day trip to China, is headed to a 4-day trip, and in the middle of a 4-day trip to Washington, suddenly an issue about the Dalai Lama once again comes to play.
Well, quite frankly, yes, Donald Trump is overshadowing the world, and it is very, very important to India. India had cast its lot in with the U.S. on strategic issues. I think this has been worrisome to China. It is something that pits one civilization nation against another. I don't think that it is profitable for either side to kind of continue this tension that exists. Anything that can be brought forward to make this situation better will be better for everybody. In a time when globalization could help India, it could help China, it could help the rest of the world, Donald Trump and the United States have decided that they want to turn away from that particular idea in a new direction, where the U.S. is at the center kind of a bicycle wheel, and each spoke goes out to another country. The U.S. maintaining that it can use both its economic and its political, military power in order to force a very good deal. Is this what India wants?
Okay, all right. Let's take it up from a different tangent, and I'm hoping Ambassador Kala, sir, apologies, we've had some problems with our satellite connection down to you. I'm hoping you can hear us now, Ambassador. Well, I'm not sure about that, but we'll give it a shot nonetheless. Ambassador Kala, if you can hear me, fundamental question to you, sir. How do we now approach this? Do we now leave it as a buried issue and hope it never comes up? Do we take on the Chinese on the issue of the Dalai Lama and Tawang, which we have, well, sort of backpedaled away from in the recent past? Or do we look at the greater game of where this fits into the larger picture of geopolitics, sir?
That the whole of Arunachal Pradesh is a constituent state of the Indian Union. And secondly, this is not the first time that the Dalai Lama will be visiting Tawang. He has visited earlier. So we should not get intimidated by Chinese bluster on this issue. It is a part of the Indian Union, and the Dalai Lama is free to travel to any part of India. That has been our consistent position. Now, if the Chinese have any issue with it, they can certainly take it up with us, and I'm sure the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will give them an appropriate response. But please do remember that this so-called offer Chinese of 80 is nothing new. It was first made in November 1985, and it is different from the one which is reportedly made in 1960. The 1960 offer, the so-called offer of 1960, was that you, recognize the status quo, which means that the whole of the eastern sector, that is the whole of Arunachal which means that the whole of the eastern sector, that is the whole of Arunachal Pradesh, will be with India, and whatever area they had occupied in Aksai China, that would remain with China. In 1985, this proposal was modified. Now they started talking of concessions in the eastern sector. And they only clarified sometime in 2005 when they said that, look, by concessions we mean Tawang and a certain large tract of Arunachal Pradesh. Obviously, this is a non-starter. They know it. They're just testing the waters.
Okay, they're testing the waters. All right. Then, okay, Ambassador Kala, when you say they're testing the waters, what should we be doing?
We should be
Now, I don't want to get into the theory of this, because the theory of this tells us that the Chinese waited for 30 years to generate their own power before sorting out their power disputes, and India should do the same. What should we do in practical terms, sir? Because on the western side, you know, the CPEC corridor, which is being built by China at a cost of $40 billion through Pakistan. We have some genuine geopolitical concerns to deal with them in Southeast Asia and in the Indian Ocean region where the Chinese Navy is entering. How does this fit into the larger picture, Ambassador?
Please let me complete. That is not the issue. The issue is that Arunachal Pradesh is a constituent state of the Indian Union, and it will remain a state of the Indian Union. I don't think any government in India has any inclination to give them any part of Arunachal Pradesh. And I think we should make that very clear to them.
Okay.
There is no question of giving any concessions to them as far as Arunachal Pradesh is concerned.
Okay.
And I think the Chinese, if we repeat it, they will understand and they will try to understand what India's position is.
Okay, so the testing the waters.
That doesn't mean that we should stop negotiating with them. Certainly we should talk to them. But I think our position should be firm.
Okay, so position, and I think the position has been firm because let's put the facts on the table. This is the Chinese diplomat who was part of the negotiation saying this is what we offered. It's not that India at any point of time considered it and offered to deal with Chinese on these, or the Chinese on these terms. Jaydev Ranade, on the fundamentals of this, when it calls upon dealing with China now, when it calls upon the issues that we have with China now, right across the table, as I mentioned, from Pakistan to the Indian Ocean to the larger geopolitics of this, does this factor in anywhere?
Well, it's part of it. The border issue has been central to India-China relations. We have been pressing the Chinese to sort it out. They haven't. In fact, other issues have piled on. So fine, I think we will continue to talk to them. We'll continue to see if, we can get some agreement from the Chinese. But on basic issues, and I agree entirely with what Ambassador Kala said, there is no question of making any concessions on territorial
So then it comes
issues.
down to testing the waters.
I think our position is very clear.
Okay.
And Dai Binguuo is aware of it.
So it comes down to testing the waters. Now, if a man here is then a Chinese envoy who's been, like I said, a top advisor to the establishment in Beijing is coming up and raking this up, and it's no coincidence that at the same time, this is what the Chinese Foreign Affairs spokesperson is saying on Tawang and the Dalai Lama. We have that soundbite. Let's play it out, then I come back to this conversation.
中方对有关的消息表示严重关切。我们在中印边界东段地区上的问题上的立场是明确和一贯的。达赖集团长期从事反华分裂活动，在中印边界问题上有着不光彩的历史和表演。印方非常清楚达赖问题的严重性和中印边境问题的敏感性。在此情况下，印方邀请达赖到中印领土争议地区活动，将会对中印边境地区的和平稳定和中印关系造成严重的损害。中方坚决反对达赖到中印领土争议地区活动，已多次向印方表达了关切。我们要再次敦促印方恪守在涉藏问题上的承诺，遵守双方在边界问题上的重要共识，不要采取使边界问题进一步复杂化的行动，不给达赖集团反华分裂活动提供舞台，维护中印关系的健康稳定发展。
All right, so with that, let's come to the second part of another important question, and I want to get Einar Tangen in on this. Einar Tangen, our Foreign Secretary, was in Beijing for 4 days this past week. He's now headed off to Washington, as I was mentioning earlier. The fundamental issue in India is Chinese support to Pakistan, Chinese opposition to sanction and censure what India and the world and the United States have described as global terrorists that have been already sanctioned and censured, men who are responsible for murdering innocents in this country. What is the position of you, sir, in Beijing on this issue?
Well, the issue of Pakistan and India goes back quite some time, and it's not entirely blameless on both sides. I think India has taken counter moves to Pakistan. Pakistan feels very strongly that it is under pressure, and it has responded. I do not agree with any kind of terrorist act, and those who perpetuate them, I believe, should be brought to justice. In terms of how China treats this, that is slightly different. They look at it as non-intervention, whether that is easier for them or it is a simple principle many people argue about. But I can tell you, as time goes forward, China will have to make choices, very difficult ones, about how it implements policy and its relations with people and countries.
Okay.
So when you start talking about India and Pakistan, you have to keep a thing. India will not be able to pressure China into doing something it doesn't want to do. The question is, what can be put on the table to solve these issues? What would be necessary for India to say to China, let us resolve all of the issues, including this whole situation.
It's a confluence
with
of interest.
And the trade route.
Okay, it's confluence of interest. Jaidev Ranade, confluence of interest. In the past 24 hours, we've seen the ISIS now make a direct threat to China. The United States man in charge of NATO forces, General Nicholson, has made it directly clear that Baghdadi of the ISIS and the Hafiz Saids of the Lashkar-e-Taiba are one and the same thing. They're part of the same network. Is there a confluence of interest that we can hope to, sir, on terrorism, Mr. Ranade?
Well, I think as far as terrorism is concerned, China will have to fall in line with international practice. They cannot continue being selective as far as terrorism is concerned. And that's what they have been till now. I recently saw an article in the Global Times written by a senior deputy editor of the People's Daily, who actually referred to seeking India's help in settling the Rakhine state, where the Rohingyas are getting, indoctrinated by the IS. And the borders, as we all know, between Myanmar and China are very porous. And I'm sure he's aware that the Lashkar-e-Taiba is busy training these Rohingyas. So China will have to look for assistance from other countries for their problems. Half of China's land area is already disturbed. Xinjiang is violent and disturbed. And there are reports of Uyghurs being trained elsewhere who are trying to come back. So I would say if today the Chinese are being selective, they might need to look to other countries for assistance in tackling this problem.
And does that make India the other country?
Pakistan is a source. They will have to lean
so
on
do
the
we hope,
Pakistani
then,
authorities
Ambassador
shut
Kala,
down,
and I'm trying to get a picture,
these
sir.
outfits that are operating with impunity there.
I'm trying to get a picture, sir, of the game for our viewers as it is playing out, of all the moves that are taking place as we know them. Does the fact that a Trump comes out and says that he supports the view of one China, tries to soothe some nerves over there, help us out in actually finding that confluence of interests? Ambassador, my voice is reaching you, sir. That's for you.
Sorry, who's it? Is it for me?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Hello?
Ambassador Kala, yes, go ahead.
Is it for me?
Yes, sir, go ahead, please.
Hello? Yes. Yes, you see, as far as terrorism is concerned, we have been having what they call talks with the Chinese on this issue of terrorism. Now, as Mr. Ranade said, they have been selective in the past. And don't forget, when Uyghur terrorists are found in Thailand, the Chinese have no compunction in kidnapping them and taking them back to China. On the other hand, when it comes to terrorists coming from Pakistan, they start prevaricating. Now, their belief is that this issue should be resolved as an India-Pakistan issue and not as an issue of terrorism. Now, this is something which is completely unacceptable as far as we are concerned, because Hafiz Said and his ilk are clearly terrorists. And as you know, that if they are being sponsored by the state of Pakistan, then it is incumbent upon the state of Pakistan to put an end to it.
I'm running short of time.
Because you cannot have what they call state-to-state relations.
Okay, I'm running short of time. I just want to take last words.
Terrorism.
Jaidev Ranade, the Dalai Lama going to Tawang. Has the time come to make a statement?
Well, he wants to go to Tawang. He's being allowed to go to Tawang, as he is permitted to travel to Mungod and Bailakuppe in Karnataka. They are all parts of the Indian Union, and what's the problem in that?
Okay.
I don't think the government of India is actually hosting him as such. He's just traveling there. So I think it's a perfectly valid, permission that has been given.
Okay, it's
and
perfectly
as far
valid.
As Chinese protests are concerned, I can quite understand why they're feeling upset at this point in time. But they also object to our leaders, political leaders traveling
All
to
right, so it's
Arunachal.
perfectly valid and it should be
Including our
done.
Prime
That's the
Minister.
bottom line. So Chinese complaints hopefully can be ignored. There is a larger game here. We've been trying to delve into it. Gentlemen, for joining us and having this conversation tonight. Thank you. That's a wrap on the News Lens on the